Hey everybody, welcome to a very special episode. This is a joint episode of the Triotonic podcast and the Words Are Tough podcast. I'm Andrew Carraro, and I have my co-host with me, Jose Rodriguez and David Oquendo.
There you go. Pretty good.
Was that good?
Yeah, it's pretty good. It's pretty accurate. That's good for the first try.
Nice. Yeah, I realized when I looked over at your name, I'm like, shit, I didn't practice that. So yeah, I know if you guys are watching, it's been a long time since Triotonic has been on the airwaves, so to speak. But a lot's been going on in the country, and we wanted to take the opportunity to dig into some politics and some of the other topics that that we love to discuss. Did you guys want to discuss anything else, like just glance over or gloss over some of the stuff that's been going on in the Words Are Tough world?
Yeah, I guess I'll start off, and then Dave could jump in at any point. As we know in some of the episodes in the previous year that we did, I had me and my girl had our first child. Then slightly after that, we were kind of mitigating that. Also, Dave had his child, and we were kind of like, I guess not like saying to do it, but just like, I guess, like kind of like we both understood that, like, time is more of the essence, and like you got to do certain sacrifices time wise, like we can't film like we were at first doing. But yeah, I guess that and like work and stuff like that, we haven't been able to schedule some things. And how about for you, Dave? What's time been like for you?
Almost non-existent, as in very quickly my time became my daughter's time. So I mean, I've been telling people having a baby has been a trip. It's like very surreal still, even though she's 9 months old. It's still like I have a conversation with my wife, like, wow, you made a baby and it's right there breathing and smiling and giggling. And it's very kind of surreal. Every day I'm kind of like, that's so cool. I have a baby. I don't know. And I'm like, and we're raising this child, and she's pretty cool. And she's pretty cool. Like, I don't want to toot my own horn. Definitely not me, but she's a very agreeable child. Like, she cries here and there, but she doesn't just unnecessarily cry. But I'm assuming if a baby's crying, it's necessary. She's very chill. We take her around to friends, and she sits around and watches and glances and laughs. It doesn't really get bothered by anything other than like loud noises, but that's most people. But that's pretty much my life the past 9.5+ months, and teaching and all that. So Jose was saying, just after we have this huge all these obligations, it's like, okay, what are luxuries and what are necessities? And for me, I'm not dismissing the podcast, but it wasn't a necessity. It was more of a luxury. And here and there, we're trying to like schedule something, and it kept falling through. And scheduling something else, and it kept falling through. But it's my priority right now is keeping my family like well fed and safe and bills paid and all that. And
Yeah.
the podcast kind of took a step back for a second, but little by little we'll figure it out.
Yeah, schedules are tough.
Yeah.
That's the new name.
So first sponsor is Nbox. Give your home-based business its own mailroom. View your open and scan mail from an encrypted app. Have it forwarded, held for pickup, or shredded and recycled. We'll even include a commercial business address to protect your privacy. Visit www.nboxdelivers.com to see more.
And with our next sponsor, we have Angelic Interference, which is a clothing company that taps into all you astrology lovers out there. Check them out. We're going to put the link down below. They're going to be coming out with a lot of poetry, artwork, music that goes along with their clothing line. So a lot of exciting things coming their way, and we appreciate them being a sponsor of the podcast. The next sponsor is Worldwide Solutions. They can take care of all your tax needs. I know tax season is already passed, but they do business payroll, all types of solutions for businesses, anything tax related, LLCs, incorporated. So reach out to them. Rick's Barbershop, which is here in Garfield. They will have you looking great for your next bar mitzvah or your communion or a wedding, whatever you have coming up. They can take care of you. Just let them know Words Are Tough sent you, and they'll give you the Words Are Tough treatment. And the last sponsor, of course, Premier Rank Marketing. They've been with us since day one. They help businesses with online solutions such as video content, online campaigns, Hulu advertising, YouTube, Facebook, Google, Twitter, all the socials. They take care of everything for you. They give you an individual plan, no matter what type of business, brick and mortar, phone-based, huge company, or sole proprietor. So reach out to them and they'll hook you up. And if you tell them Words Are Tough sent you, they'll give you 50% off, which is a great deal. All right, thank you, and back to the show.
That's actually not bad.
Yeah, no, you know what? And towards the end, when we were still scheduling stuff, we had already committed to doing guests. And then one of the times guests didn't come through. The second time was, remember, Andrew, I told you my child got sick and we were sick and all that. And she went to the zoo and got like freaking whatever virus she got.
Yeah, remember you told me about that.
Yeah, it's not pretty, but yeah, just like random life stuff like that. And, yeah, it's just tough. And also, I know, Dave, you were ramping up the end of the school year too, so towards some of that time, like at the, right before summer. Now it's summertime, so
yeah, work is different. Post COVID, post pandy, very, very different. Very different.
Speaking of COVID, good segue there. It just been announced that President Biden is testing positive for COVID-19.
Yeah, he wants to jump on the sympathy train.
You think that's it, or you think that's opening the door for him to get
drop
out the door?
You think so?
I think so. They might go with the COVID and then the long COVID and then under the weather. It doesn't feel like he could do 100%.
It's a way for him to save face and still step out.
It could be. But another thing I wanted to mention before we start getting into all the politics, we were supposed to do this podcast last week, and just like David touched on, like the scheduling snafus and things like that happened. Another thing happened last week with the Google account getting locked before we started recording, so we couldn't record. So we happened to shelf the episode for a week, and a lot has happened since last week. It feels like it was a month ago, but over that weekend, it was almost like, like it was like meant to be that we didn't do that podcast because somebody tried to take out old Don.
Yeah.
And it was just like, what do you guys I feel like that's one of those moments where like you're gonna remember where you were and what was happening when you heard about it. What did you think, Dave, when you heard first thing?
I mean, I just like to remind people, like I'm a high school teacher, so it's always like hashtag don't get fired. So I'm usually pretty neutrals, I guess, like a better word, safe with what I say.
Yeah.
But I try still to be kind of like lighthearted. But it kind of felt like hearing Betty White died, as in before Betty White, like she's like the GOAT. But I remember growing up, and there was like maybe 10 different stories of her passing away. Like, oh, Betty White died. Oh, no, she didn't. And it was that, and you keep hearing like a story like that, you're kind of desensitized by it. So when I saw something on Instagram on my news feed that, there's an assassination attempt, I wasn't even fazed by it. I was like, oh yeah, well, it didn't even occur to me that it was a serious issue. And I'm taking it serious now, but at the time, I'm like, you just hear things and like, I just don't react to things anymore because you get so much information all day. You're kind of like, yeah, but I gotta pay these bills right now. And then as the day progressed, I'm like, oh wait, that actually happened. that's crazy. And yeah, my brain kind of went to like how, why, who was there, how many people, all these sort of, questions that pop up like most people. Obviously, immediately it became all the news was 99% conspiracy and 1% actual fact. So it's kind of tough to kind of figure out what was like actual legitimate news and what was just people with conspiracies and all that kind of stuff. I will say though, the story kind of doesn't make sense to me still, but then again, I think because maybe I'm not, I mostly listen to NPR. So, and but these days information is so fast, and I don't know if you listen to NPR. They talk like that one scene with the sloth, like slowly, like it's kind of like that's how NPR is. It's very, very slow information. It's never fast. And I'm kind of used to, or we're used to, just information being so accessible. So, long story short, to finish my thought, it was a very surreal moment that I didn't quite believe at first. And then once I started looking into it, it was really difficult to figure out what was like actual factual and what was just kind of people just spewing conspiracy this or that. But I mean, today I heard, this is not, I don't want to spread this information that like some claim that the bullet hit his teleprompter or like a piece hit glass and the glass hit his ear. Either way, someone did aim a gun at him and tried to shoot him, or did shoot at him, missed, but
Yeah, to go like piggyback off of like the conspiracy route, and being that I was unaware that you were also a girl dad, David, but
yes, I
to
am. Yeah,
to kind of like mend both of those topics, a lot of like the conspiracists online were talking about like, oh, like all this DEI BS. They were all like a bunch of like Secret Service agents who were women and they didn't do a good enough job. Like,
yeah.
do you guys feel like now that you have daughters that you perceive that stuff differently? Do are you more defensive towards it, or?
I would say no, right off the bat, no. I just feel like even if with the DEI stuff, it's still going to be a disadvantage. So you just got to treat it that way. Like I guess like not so much to say disadvantage, but I guess like more obstacles for my daughter in the workforce. Like if she's trying to get a position that, like let's say if she goes into law or she goes into like politics or things like that. But I mean, it depends what she picks, because she could be a tattoo artist or a hairdresser where it's not really going to matter. It actually would be to her benefit that she's a woman. But yeah, I mean, for me right now, maybe not. But like those things that what they say, control what you can, and I always mess those up. But
But like when you hear like these like right wing jackasses saying that like like women aren't fit to do certain jobs, like like your perception of it doesn't change at all. Like,
nah. I mean, like I guess once my daughter starts going to like school and things like that, maybe it will more. But right now,
no,
nah, not really.
What about you, David?
Does it bother me? I think people need to be qualified for any job. I don't really care what genitalia you have.
Right.
But can you do the job? I actually have this joke, but not really, of like, hey, if I'm in a burning building and I'm passed out, I want the biggest, most roided out firefighter, 200 plus pounds, jacked, just drag me out. Like, it wouldn't, or a woman jacked. I don't care as long as you can do the job. I think it's
like
very
Brock Lesnar's daughter.
Yeah, like I don't care who it is. Just pick me up and drag me out. But similarly, it's like I think it's the easy thing to aim at is, oh look, a woman. But there's so many different factors. Like, is this literally their first time doing this? Are they more like just out of the academy, or I don't know how he qualified to become a Secret Service agent, to be honest. But is this their first go at something actually serious? And for me, like, and all of these people like kind of talk about it like if they were in a situation, they'll do better.
Yeah.
I doubt it. But it's but going back to what Jose was saying, I don't really view it differently because I have a daughter, but I mean, did they look like they were did they, as in all the Secret Service agents, look like they knew what they were doing? No. But then again, would I have looked more, I don't know, stoic? And I don't think I would either. So yeah, so like how many times in our, like I'm in my late 30s, I'm assuming all you guys are as well. How many times in our lifetime has a president been shot at? None. So you wouldn't think, hey, this might be the day this or a former president gets shot at. So the last time that happened was JFK, which is like 10 years plus before I was even born. So it's very like, I don't know. It's a long-winded answer, but it's like anyone would look kind of, deer in the headlights in that situation, but you do like the common theme in our household is we're doing the best with what we can with what we have. So I feel like those individuals, they did the best they could with what they have, and who am I to criticize,
Aside from like the Secret Service agents, I thought it was fucking weird that like, all right, so putting yourself in Trump's shoes, somebody just took a shot at your head, missed your head by like inches, and you're worried about your shoes. Like, that was fucking weird.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there's that. Yeah, there's that.
Yeah, like if someone's shooting at you, you're running out of there barefoot. You know what I mean? Unless he got
Yeah.
some funky ass onion toes or some shit.
You know what
You
you just
got-
said? It kind of rang a something. Ever seen Saving Private Ryan? I'm assuming you guys have.
Yeah.
When there's like literally chaos going around, that one scene where the guy literally has like no arm,
Mhm.
walking around trying to find his arm. Like, dude, you're gonna get shot at. You are getting shot at. Like, it might have just been a disassociation kind of thing. Like, I don't think anyone knew it was happening until like 10 minutes after it happened. It seemed like.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a very bizarre. All of it is just a very like people reacting in the background that don't seem. Oh, Andrew disappeared. Like, I guess on my end. People like were reacting oddly. Like some people were just kind of sitting there like looking around. There's a video of one woman just pulling out her cell phone immediately, like, and it's Donald Trump trying to find his shoe. It's like it's a lot happening and all at once, and um I tried to like really dig into it for a whole day, and I kind of went crazy. I was like, I can't keep
the whole
looking at all these
shoe thing, though,
videos.
the whole
Yeah,
shoe thing, it lends to the people who think that it was staged.
Staged? Yeah, that's unfortunate.
That's a theory that people have because let's lay out the theories, right? I think it's like
Yeah, let's get into it.
yeah,
Just a preface.
get into the meat and
These are not
potatoes. Let's
things
go.
that, or I don't.
Yeah.
These are things that are just theories are out there. We're not
Yeah.
like condoning and or saying these are actually true. They're just kind of like stuff that's
we're
in
just
the ether.
we're just showing you.
Let me be clear. I don't believe any of this. I honestly think it's just incompetence or stupidity. Like, I don't think there's any conspiracies.
It's not Occam's razor. There's another razor. Do you know the name of it? That it means don't attribute malice
attribute to malice, which should be attributed to stupidity.
Well, yeah. What?
Yeah.
That one? Yeah. Like if it could be stupidity, that don't whatever. But yeah. So there's the theories. One lone guy, off his rocker, and he just
lone wolf.
Yeah, lone wolf, no help, just completely lost it. That's the one right now that it seems like
Hanlon's razor.
What's it called?
Hanlon's razor.
Hanlon's? Oh, okay.
Yeah, Hanlon.
Oh, Hanlon's razor, yeah. So there's like the lone wolf theory, which is what really pretty much right now the FBI and CIA and everyone's pushing. Like that's what it seems to be. You know, the kid was a Republican registered. They do find online that he was really upset about the whole January 6th ordeal. When that happened, reportedly he donated money to like a Democratic action group that was against the January 6th riots or whatever. But registered Republican, they went to his house, Trump flags, you know, gun owners, you know, like regular Republican family. Then there's the theory that people think it was staged because, you know, I guess to like elevate Trump's like, I guess lore, you know, like
yeah.
And then there's the third one, which is that someone tried to kill him, whether you think that's the deep state or if you think it's the Democrats. A lot of people immediately were blaming Democrats, including top-ranking officials were saying Biden gave the green light and all that stuff, which is crazy to think that they would put that out there publicly like that.
After everybody's saying like, oh, we got to tone down the rhetoric to like go and like make an accusation like that is fucking mad irresponsible.
It was a lot of let's all unite and you know and not be divided, stay united, or at least all the phrases. But in this within immediately after that, it's like those Democrats, those Dems, Biden tried to do it. Oh, but let's be united. But the Democrats did it. It was a lot of back and forth during like the RNC stuff. It was
Did you see the shit with the teleprompter?
Oh yeah. What's his name? I forgot his name, but he according to I got a reference where I got it from. Jon Stewart, I saw it like a few hours ago. Like I forgot the guy's name, but there was a Republican that said, "Hey, let's be united. Let's not spew vitriol, X, Y, and Z." And then cut to during the RNC, he's just kind of like destroying the Democrats and Biden, saying they try to kill the former president, yada yada. It's like, it's a lot of just double speak. I don't know if I'm saying that right, but yeah, I think double speak, just going back and forth with that kind of rhetoric.
Ron Johnson was his name.
There you go, Ron Johnson.
And then afterwards, he was like, "Oh yeah, that wasn't the speech that was supposed to be up there. Somebody put the wrong speech on the teleprompter, but he read it anyway."
Yeah, I don't know. If I was up there, I do think I would not. Like, for example, I'm a high school teacher, and we do, graduation speeches all the time. Like for the past 12 years, I've been doing it. Hypothetically, and they give us a speech, and we write it ourselves, and we give it to them. And when we walk up, they give us a speech, so we just read it. If they gave me the wrong speech, I'd be like, "Hey, this is not my speech. This is not what I wrote." And they're like, "No, read it anyway." Like, no. So it's kind of weird. Like, yeah, he just read the teleprompter, and it wasn't his speech, but he still read it anyway. Yeah.
Imagine it's just like just some other Republican underling over there. He's like, you won't say that speech.
Yeah. And side note, myself and my wife love the Boys, the show, and we're on season 4. I'm not spoiling anything, but because of all the stuff happening now, we have to just pause watching that show because it kind of just reinforced the frustration, anger, confusion, annoyance in the household. I was like, yeah, we'll just pause on the show for a second for a week or two, because that show is very even though it was filmed, this season 4 was filmed maybe I don't know, 6 months ago to a year ago, it's still very applicable right now, literally today.
Oh, there's similarities.
Yeah, it's and the comic was written back in the 90s, so it's interesting.
Yeah,
it's like a Simpsons kind of thing.
Yeah, even in Game of Thrones, they not spoiling anything either, but they're using tactics of sowing discontent with the common folk, to kind of get at the acting king and stuff. It's kind of stuff there political. Very political.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's part of the reason why Game of Thrones is great, like the political aspect of it. But I don't know. If you had to, like, if someone was like, all right, make a choice right now, put a gun to your head, and you had to go with one of those three theories, which one do you think you would go with?
I'd definitely go with the lone wolf,
Yeah,
a
me
lone
too.
wolf theory. What about you, David?
I'm leaning towards a lone wolf. You know, I guess it's the mainstream like
Yeah,
story. There's a but though. There's a caveat. But the one thing that's just really bizarre, and I'm not, I still think is alone. I do think this guy did it all by himself. Um, it's just really bizarre that this guy just climbed on top of this roof with people recording him for like 90 seconds to 2 minutes approximately, but no one else saw. It's just really, it's just, there's still those. This is not just like, oh, I saw a guy. It's like, no, there's actually a recording of this guy climbing up on top of the roof. And it's kind of like, it's just really weird that the spectators will see it, but literally dudes with binos and scopes didn't. I don't
so
The
know.
now they're saying that they did see him and they reported it, and like I guess there was confusion, but nobody did anything. No, there
so
was no action
Yeah.
taken, and they saw
yeah,
him earlier in the day too, walking around by like the metal detector machines with a rangefinder. So like supposedly he was seen like a bunch like throughout the day, and there was no action taken. So I mean,
yeah,
I agree with the lone wolf thing, but like
Yeah.
there's a lot of like shit that needs to be answered.
Yeah,
yeah.
like
And to
a
circle
lot of people
back,
drop the ball all at the same time.
yeah,
Yeah,
and to
yeah,
circle back on those theories, though, this is the weirdest thing that, and someone used a word which I think one of the law enforcement agencies or whatever, I don't know if it was the FBI or they used the word that he was an enigma, but really the fucking enigma is this whole fucking situation because anything that someone thinks like, okay, all right, so like let's say anyone who's like a Trump fan or a Republican is saying they allowed him to get on that roof and they're not wrong, like, but the thing is who is they, and
right.
the more you look at who's they, the less it makes sense that it was Democrats that did it or even deep state, because if it was deep state they wouldn't have missed, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it's like, one, why would you have some untrained kid do it if you get this one shot and everyone's in line and the police are involved and Secret Service is going to stand down, they're going to put fucking a top dog in
American
there to take.
Sniper in there.
Yeah, they're gonna put it like fucking Captain Blue, like Captain Blue America, somebody, somebody that's not gonna miss him. And but yeah, I don't know. That's the thing that doesn't make sense. The thing also, he's a Republican. The kid, the kid was a Republican from a Republican family, and of course, he's young. He can be like, let's say, radicalized by anyone at any point. But yeah, for me, it's how they missed him. Like how it was an easy shot. A lot of snipers that were there said it. That's like a basic training. Like you are done. In the basic training, you can't get out without making that shot. Like
it's a chip. It's called a chip shot. It's like it's like putting in golf. It's like it's so close.
yeah,
It's not. It's not far.
yeah, and he took 5 shots. So if he missed on the ear, he could have easily hit him again. Like anywhere on the body if he really wanted to.
Yeah.
Also, they reported that his parents had called the police that morning. The news said that they reported him missing, but they also said that he was at work like the day before, asked for Saturday off, and that he was going to be back Sunday. So I mean, he couldn't have been missing for more than like 12 hours, which is weird. Which means like they knew like something wasn't right. Like
Yeah. And you can't actually report a missing person for like I
48
think
hours.
2 days.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know.
Shit.
But there's a lot of I guess you can say here, like I was saying before, like a lot of people drop the ball at the same time, and when that happens, it just looks very suspicious.
Yeah.
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 Lots of coincidences.
Yeah, so yeah, it just doesn't add up. for it to be the deep state or the Democrats, you know, even though he got the free shot. That's why I see a lot of things like it lends more to it being staged, but at the same time, you don't want to believe that it is because they took the guy out. But like, let's say, hypothetically, like, you know, playing devil's advocate, right? If we go down that road that it was staged, right? Let's say they tell this kid, "Oh, you're gonna go up there. No one's gonna see you. You're gonna take some shots. You're gonna miss on purpose, something like that, right?" Let's say that's what they're, or your shots are blanks. They're not gonna kill anybody. He does have blanks. Let's say, you know, some people say there's another shooter involved. You know, there's always that theory is always like kind
The
of
grassy knoll.
because of,
Yeah,
because
the
of
Gressel
John
theory.
Kennedy. Yeah, exactly. So, um, the kid doesn't know he's gonna die. He gets killed to be like a patsy. There's a second shooter. You know, and this is now we're going down tinfoil
Yeah.
avenue here.
Just write a movie at this point. Just,
Yeah, but that's like this is what would have to go on if it was staged. You know what I mean? Like if it
yeah,
was
a lot of
staged,
things.
a lot of moving parts, but doesn't that like allow for the whole thing? Like they saw him up there, they let him up there, they let him in with the gun. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know, all those things. Like if it was deep state or Democrats, how would he get so lucky on all those counts? You know, like getting it in, climbing the roof. The cops are, I mean, you know, I'm not saying anything about cops, but you know, they're not passive. You know what I mean? Like if you see someone climbing the roof, you know, you're not.
Yeah, you
You're
could
not on
wear
that side.
you could just look different or have a hood on, walk in the wrong direction, and the cops and they're like, "Hey, who are you?" You know,
Oh,
it happened to me. So,
you could just live, and then you just be living.
yeah, just
But this kid was living hard and fast, you know.
yeah.
But yeah, no, I don't know, man. It doesn't add up to me. It doesn't add. It feels like this kid thought he was getting away with it scot free. Um, I don't know. It just doesn't add up. It doesn't add up. He was
The thing
conservative too. Not to just say that he was Republican, but also conservative. A lot of people thought it was going to be some liberal guy, or you know. And you know what's weird? When I first heard that day when it happened, there were some reports out saying that it was a Chinese male.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Before the picture started coming out, though, you could clearly see, you know, it had like
He
dark
and
does
also
brown
some
hair.
Italian guy. They claim it was some Italian dude,
Yeah,
some
yeah.
heavy
Who
set
turned
Italian.
out to be like a football coach.
Yeah, it was just a lot of, like I said, there was a lot of just the first 24 to 40 hours, just a lot of nonsense
Yeah,
news. But I'm gonna jump because I actually pulled up the questions. So what outlets do you rely on for most of your news? I mentioned NPR. I like NPR. I acknowledge that they're obviously biased. But I feel like even though in their biasness, they try to be as unbiased. If that makes any sense. So I'm well aware NPR is very left leaning, you know, not hardcore far left, you know, like you go so far left you're back to like being hard right. But you know, the only issue with my preferred news outlet is they're just very slow. they're just very they're just very slow at like providing information because they don't want to because they don't want to, at least this is my perception, because they don't want to provide false information. They're slower in providing information. But at the same time, should we be so on the pulse of every little thing happening like the second it happens? I don't think that's even humanly healthy to like know what's happening
All the time.
in Japan
Yeah.
within 10 seconds. I don't think that your brain's gonna explode eventually. At least
Yeah.
mine will.
Jing
But
Ping just farted,
yeah.
and
Yeah. And you
someone's
can
gonna get
legit, you know, if the news came out, you know, what Xi Jinping had for dinner last night. Why should I know that? I shouldn't know that. But so I like NPR, but at the same time, if I need to know, and sometimes you just have that urge, I just need to know what's happening. You know, you jump to, I wouldn't say Instagram or is a source, but I scroll through Instagram and people post things, and you're like, you read something, you're like, that doesn't make any sense, or like, it's like, really, that's actually happening, and it's, my brain just gets filled with just nonsense. But so it's kind of like, I know what the nonsense is, or I'm aware that this is not legitimate source. But that's an interesting story, you know. And a lot of times the actual story is actually pretty boring, you know.
Is that Pod Save America show? Is that NPR?
Pod Save America, I don't know. I can't say yes or no, I don't know.
Andrew, what's your top outlet?
Let's see. Definitely Breaking Points. Definitely get most of my information from there. Secondly, would probably be Democracy Now.
Yeah.
Those two are probably the ones I go to the most for valuable information. I like the fact, and I think a lot of what Jose and I are trying to do with this whole political spin is like try to get some dissenting voices that might have differing opinions than we do. And one of the things I like about Breaking Points is you have Saga, who's definitely right leaning, and then Crystal, who's left leaning. They kind of balance each other out. So I don't like just going into like those echo chamberish type outlets.
Yeah.
What about you,
I would
Jose?
say out of the major ones, the ones that I like the most, I would say is like Associated Press. And I know we both talked a lot about like as far as polling goes, Reuters. But as far as like really independent and like more niche like news, I like David Pakman. He's very left leaning and very liberal, but not like, I'm gonna watch my words here, but like a liberal in the sense of in the right places for me, because I'm not all the way liberal myself. But
the majority of, not to cut you off, but the majority of individuals I speak with, they're usually center left or center right.
mm-hmm.
I've encountered like far right individuals, but I can't sustain a conversation, to be honest. But the majority of people I've encountered are usually like, for like some, for some issues they're more left leaning, and for other issues it might be a little bit more right leaning, but they lean toward one side or the other. But here and there you do encounter extreme individuals, but I don't befriend them most of the time. I just think I can't any direction. I think who said it was Chris Rock, where I don't decide my stance until I know the argument.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of individuals, they establish their stance first and then they hear the argument. I'm more like, let me hear the argument first and then let me establish, okay, what do I think about that? And 9 times out of 10, I'm more liberal than conservative. But yeah, I tend to give that raise eyebrow when someone says I'm this all the time. I'm like, well, that's just like,
yeah,
that's just not smart.
Gotcha. And yeah, let's roll right into the second question. You know what, I'm actually going to read out the question this time. I know we said what's your favorite outlet, and you did say kind of, but this one's a little more detailed. So should the United States be taking a larger or smaller role in world events such as wars and other humanitarian crises, right?
Yeah.
Around the world, around the globe. So what do you think, Andrew? Let's start with you.
I think that the United States needs to step up its soft power. I think a lot of what we've seen transpire over the last half century has been the United States trying to bring democracy to the world, but by force. they say we're bringing democracy, then we destroy everything that they have and rebuild it and get rich off of them and put them in, financial slavery, Halliburton and the banking system and all that. But that's a whole nother conversation. But I think like doing things like China tried doing during COVID by like, giving free vaccines to third world countries to, gain some political clout, or, helping build up third world countries by giving them loans, maybe not so like predatory loans like China's been doing.
In Africa.
Just, yeah, exactly. With the Belt and Road Initiative. But like, just instead of like just being like, forceful or hard, like carrying a big stick, like Teddy Roosevelt said, just like being a bit more, I don't know what the word is, but not nicer, but just
Humanitarian.
yeah, exactly, yeah.
And what do you think, Dave?
I feel like me and Andrew are the same person today. But I kind of have to echo that. It's not be involved. But I think, for example, like again, I'm a high school teacher, not like completely hands off, because like if two students are arguing or having an issue, I don't dictate how both of them should behave. I have to guide them through that disagreement in a peaceful way, and not encourage not say you're right and you're wrong, unless it was a you're right and you're wrong situation, but kind of like guide them through that issue, and try to be as unbiased as possible, not jump. It's like I feel like the United States is it's like me seeing two kids fight and I pick my favorite one and I just beat up the other kid with the student. It's like, no, don't do that. That's not don't just start joining in the fight, nor encourage the fighting, but like, how do you like bring peace into that environment without encouraging more violence? Again, I don't have the answer to this. I'm not Dr. Manhattan or whatever, but like, it's, be more involved in a more humanitarian kind of way, not pick a side and only help one group and not the other. I mean,
or sell them weapons.
Or yeah, or like providing weapons to one side but not the other, and then how did I get there? How do they have so many of our weapons? But it's very like, we're not going to solve world peace in this podcast, but like I do feel like the United States should be more involved in humanitarian crises as much as they can, and not, for their own, I guess, or our own, or the US's own benefit. Because 9 times out of 10, I'm throwing up just this general number out, it's usually because it benefits the United States in some sort of way, either fiscal or, political or whatever. Yeah. I wish it was a bit more stoic in a sense of like, do good things because good things are good to do. But maybe I'm being a bit too utopian thinking that. But at the same time, though, don't, I have family in the military and all that, and also in law enforcement. And like when Trump just pulled out soldiers out of countries, a lot of individuals I knew that are, officers, and they're involved in the military, they're all like, yeah, no, don't do that. That's the worst thing to do. Because then it became a vacuum. And then once you have a vacuum, some other power, usually not the best people, go into that vacuum and make the place even worse. So it's not like, oh, let's all pull out at the same time. That's not good. So, yeah. So I'm kind of talking in circles, but yeah, I think more humanitarian, less wars. But I mean, I don't know. I mean, I'm sure somebody out there would be like, yeah, more wars, less humanitarian. I'm sure they're out there somewhere. I don't know them though.
I think also like sometimes the United States like needs to take a step back though. And like I think it's like a fine line, like because like you were saying how there's power vacuums. I think a lot of the times, like, you know, with Afghanistan, for instance, like, okay, like we want slow withdrawal, you know, so that you know, the people there don't suffer. But like that power vacuum and in Syria and in Iraq was created by us, was because of our actions. So like I feel like the savior complex that, you know, a lot of the people, the ruling elite in the United States have, like, fucks things up worse than, you know, than they were before, even though things might not have been that great in whichever country we might be speaking of.
Like the
Gotcha.
white savior complex
Yeah, exactly.
kind of thing. Yeah.
I got a little different perspective. I think they should reassess everything they're doing and assign like some kind of like values to like what's hurting the country more, and kind of go away from that. And yeah, the humanitarian thing is great, and like, you know, still keeping a focus on trying to end like world hunger, things like that, where their goals were like everyone could chip in, not just, you know, the United States. But really focus more on like a green initiative, you know, and pushing that more, which is not going to happen if Trump wins. But you know, I think that's really the most important. I mean, everything's important, but I think that's it kind of like determines if there's even anything to like keep fighting for, you know what I mean? Because if we're just in 30 years like unlivable surfaces on the planet, like, you know, what are we doing, you know?
Yeah.
Like yeah, so I think that's something important for us to, you know, take a bigger initiative on.
But what do we do in the case of like India and China, like these countries who were poor for so long, right? When we were like poisoning our environment, United States was first world industrialized nation, became the, you know, richest nation in the history of the world while these people were starving. They're finally starting to get a leg up, you know, burning some coal, you know, polluting here and there. Like, can we come in there now and be like, yo, fuck you? Like, I realize that you're raising people out of poverty, but stop burning coal.
I think we're gonna be forced to. Yeah.
But do you think that that's something that like would be worth like using force over? Because if not, then how do you do it?
If we don't, it would be too late by the time they realize, you know, like it's like you know, not to use like a you know, like a kid that gets in trouble, you know, like except that the United States did all the bad stuff already, and now India and China are doing the worst job. But it's like where it really counts, you know, like we're really seeing terrible events, you know, like weather events all throughout the world. This is where you got to be like, this is where you're getting in trouble. And are you going to keep going further than that, you know, just for a buck?
No,
You
no,
know,
I hear you. But
yeah,
I'm
when,
just,
when they get smacked, it's going to be, you know, it's going to be like,
but from like
you're not even going to jail, you know, you're going to die.
from like the, you know, like the elite, the rich elite in India and China, they're probably looking at like the rich assholes in America being like, fuck you, like you had your chance to get rich, now we want ours.
Yeah, but except it's not like a chance, you know. Like I get what you mean, but it's not like you know, it's not like passing the torch or anything like that, you know. It's like
No, I get what you're saying, and
yeah,
that's
no,
how
I know you understand.
that's how we could explain it to them. I'm just saying like their way out there, you know, is like, fuck this, like who are you gonna, you know, like people were starving for so long, now we're finally starting to build up our society, like we're getting ours.
Yeah, no, I mean that's definitely what's going on.
Yeah.
But
Although China's done like in small pockets of their country anyway, has done like significant improvements in like air quality and stuff. All the EVs
oh
and
yeah,
shit.
that's nice. That's nice. That's nice of them. Speaking of China, I'll segue right into the next question.
China.
China. Yeah.
Who do you think, or what do you think, is the single largest threat to? Actually, you know what? You could say this last part.
That last word?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, yeah. Who or what do you think is the single largest threat to American hegemony or
Let's start with
hegemony?
David on this one.
I call it hegemony.
Yeah.
But
You can say either or.
hegemony works too.
I do the silent G.
Hemony?
Emoji. Hey, Moni.
I mean, I'll jump to that. I mean, I don't. Well, to explain to the that funny word hegemony or hegemony is pretty much when like a small subset of a group controls or influences the rest of the group. That's sort of like the simplest way of defining it. I mean, I'm sure it's deeper than that. There's way better words you can use. I'm not working, so it's my summer. So during the summer, I go dumb. But I don't think there's much. This is who or what do you think is the single largest threat? I don't think there's any threat. Because I think those that are in influence will stay in influence. I'll use. Do you guys ever watch the movie What We Do in the Shadows?
Is that the vampire one?
Yeah.
I watched a few episodes.
Yeah, me too.
And there's also a show What We Do in the Shadows, written by
Oh.
Taika Waititi and all them.
Yeah, that's what I saw.
And the vampires have what they call familiars, and a familiar is just a human that serves the vampires. And usually there's a promise that the human will become a vampire eventually, but usually that never happens. It's like, no, I'm going to serve this vampire, even though vampires are obviously not pro-human. They view the human as like either food or a source for labor. But these familiars are like, no, I'm going to serve my vampire master because one day he's going to give me those powers too, right? I'm getting to my point. But similarly, I feel like that's how a lot of the individuals, the elites, people that have the wealth, will convince the everyday person, like, don't worry if you vote for me. Don't worry if you're on my side. You'll join the rich team too, or whatever you want to call it. You'll become like us, the elites, which never happens. They just want your vote. They want your money. They want they want something from you, but they're not going to give you what they're promising. So I don't. Maybe I'm reading the question incorrectly. Like if it's another country,
Yeah.
But I'm kind of reading it as more like is there anything in the United States that can hinder hegemony? And I think no. Outside of the United States, maybe China. I don't know. I'm not familiar with China, to be honest. I've never been there. So my best friend's Chinese, but that's pretty much it. But I don't. For me, I don't really see it. If anything, I think the United States, if it continues the Trump route and product 2025 and all that, I think it's gonna become way more like China, even mirroring China, I think. But that's more of my tinfoil hat on kind of conspiracy. I don't think I answered the question, but I tried.
Do you want to go, Jose? Or you want me to take it?
No, you could go.
I think really like the biggest threat is internal, which is funny because when I thought of the question, I was thinking of like outside threats. But yeah, to be honest, it'd probably be like a joint combination of outside influences exploiting those internal conflicts. Not only political but class warfare. And I think as the wealth gap continues to widen and people are getting sick and tired of being sick and tired, that's just going to get worse. And the politicians that we have now just continue to exploit the political differences and the cultural wars. So I think if there was ever a threat, that would probably be the driving force behind it. But I think maybe it could have some outside influence. Do I see China as being like a realistic threat? Just based on the size of our military right now, I don't think so. Same thing with Russia. Um, I mean, if they all joined forces, obviously we'd have a tough time. Um, but
I mean, we have allies too, though. So
exactly, yeah.
But yeah. Um, honestly, when I thought of this question, I definitely think it's China.
China.
Barring some, World War III scenario where obviously the winner of this question would be the winner of that war, but if let's say there was no war and we were just continuing down paths that, economical paths, and they have us beat because they don't have as many like labor laws and things like that, which, it's not correct, it's
Or
wrong.
environmental laws like we were talking about.
Yeah, so we're putting limits on ourselves, rightfully so, though, like for the greater good, but they're not playing by the rules, So
Right.
it's like living by today's law, and then the power grid goes out. The people that are going to survive are the people that aren't playing by the rules, Like if, just to use that example, like, you can't expect China, like you were saying, they're going to get theirs now. We can't say, oh, we're limiting carbon footprints, and, you can't send kids to work, and you can't have people working 80-hour weeks. And, they're not going to follow suit just because you said that it's right,
Right.
So they just got us beat there, I think, and then it just, they have so many people there. They're able to get away with, like, government, on the government side, a lot of bending of the rules when it comes to businesses, seizing assets. Nobody bats an eye. It's just like, oh, it's China. They're stealing everyone's intellectual property.
Yeah.
From cyber warfare.
Plus, they prop some companies up with like state support.
Yeah, they got us beat because they're not, like I said, they're not playing by the rules.
Aside from that, they also have us beat like socially, like the fact that they ruled over their people with like such a,
Iron Fist.
yeah,
Yeah.
like it's kind of crazy. Like you wouldn't have the protests like you have here. You wouldn't have riots. I mean, they did have some protests, but I don't think that they lasted too long.
But that's almost like a death sentence. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like if you're doing that,
you're not going to be seen ever again.
Like those doctors that were ringing the alarm for COVID, they all end up dead. And for what? Like why? Just because they're saying people are getting sick.
And I think that's kind of frightening. Like seeing, like what you were saying, like how like business wise, they economically they have like the leg up on us. Like socially in terms of like the powerful controlling the many probably have a leg up on us. Like it's scary to think like, all right, are any of the elites in the United States looking at that and being like, like if you can't beat them, join them.
Yeah, and I feel like it's funny because we'll say elites in the U.S., but I feel like the elites don't have allegiance to anywhere.
Yeah, they don't.
They have places all over the world, and they're gonna go where the flavor of the week is. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't consider them. I consider them their own entity and like their own, location. They have their own bunkers and shit.
Yeah, I forget. I think it might have been Noam Chomsky who was saying like, there's no more like nation states. It's just like multinational corporations now.
Yep. Thanks to President Bush.
First one.
And but yeah, okay, so last question. What do you think we all can do to try and facilitate more civil discussions with those who have views that differ from our own? This is a good one. Let's go one point at a time and go around and until we hit all the ones we have.
I guess my point is, and I tell us to students to kind of avoid arguments or unnecessary arguments, is never have a debate if you're not willing to be wrong. And if you're both not willing to be wrong, then you're just yelling at each other. And it's tough to do that because you need to put aside that, hey, I need to be okay maybe being wrong in this situation. And if you're not willing to do that, then don't bother. Then don't have the discussion. You're just sort of wasting your time and that other person's time. So for me, anytime I have discussions with people and I feel like it's going bad, like I will ask, hey, I'm willing to be wrong in this situation, in this discussion. Are you? And if they say no, I'd be like, then there's nothing to discuss. Then we can't have a civil discussion then. That's I can keep going, but that's my first point. Yeah.
All right, you go, Andrew.
This one's tough. One thing that I've tried to do is just try to expose myself to more viewpoints from like the opposing side or other sides, just to have like a better understanding of their perspective. Because a lot of the shit that I hear, some people, I'll just say it, some people on the right say just sounds crazy to me. But then, hearing how it's delivered or how it's packaged to them in certain ways, I feel gives me a better ability to kind of try and relate to them on like a human level of how they're seeing it and not just, cast them aside.
Okay. Sorry, excuse me.
By the way, just to be transparent, it's almost 10 p.m. on what day is it?
Wednesday.
Wednesday? Yeah,
This
Wednesday.
is the last
so
question.
Yeah, we're
This is the last question.
Running on fumes.
Yeah. So the only thing I would say is when a conversation is going south, I think it's good to be able to find something you can agree on. I think that's a good tactic. That is something that maybe makes the conversation a more beneficial one. And I think that's something that I like to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My second point was you have to package information so a person can digest it. An analogy would be like, you can, Jose, what's your favorite food?
Oh shit, that's a tough one. I don't know. Chicken penne vodka.
Was that chicken penne
Vodka? Yeah.
Like,
It's
for
tougher than the
example,
political
like
questions.
that's your favorite food, right? And you find it delicious, I'm assuming, if you like to eat it. However, if I were to just kind of make it into a ball and just shove it down your throat, it doesn't matter if that's your favorite food. You delivered that food in a very aggressive manner. You'd probably be angry at me if I did that. And I'm like, what? Like, you like this food? Take it. Similarly, it's like it doesn't really matter. Take it. It doesn't really matter if the person's right. It doesn't even matter if the information you're providing is accurate. But if you're like shoving it down someone's throat, calling them stupid, saying they suffer from Dunning-Kruger effect or whatever,
Yeah.
they'll just look at you like, no, I don't care. You whatever, you're liberal, they're this or that.
You libtard.
Yeah, I was gonna say that, but yeah. Or the other way around, or a person that's a Republican and very right
You're
leaning,
racist.
providing, pretty good points, but providing the information in a very like racist, bigoted kind of way. You're like, you don't that information is not really digestible. You reject it. But providing information where people are like, oh, like your points actually make sense because you're not insulting me in the process or make me feel dumb. Once being a teacher, once you make a kid feel dumb, you lost them. You can't, similarly, I'm not saying I look down on people, but like being a teacher really helps you figure out, how do you provide information to another person that you in a subject that they're unfamiliar with, and providing the information so they come out of it like feeling smart, like feel like I learned something today. Now I feel more dumb. and it's hard to do because not everyone's a teacher, and I have a hard time doing it, and it's my job. So I think just learning to like provide information to people and bring them along in the conversation, not make them feel dumber or make them feel less informed. And once a person feels, I don't know, insignificant, silly, they're gonna defend themselves unnecessarily or necessarily, whichever. But just packaging information where people can actually like understand it. And I don't like saying this, but designers do this really well, or really good designers do it well, where you design something where the lowest common denominator understands it, and not talking over people. And I'm not giving Trump credit for this, but he's really good at this. He's really good at communicating to the lowest common denominator.
It's his like slogan.
And he talks at their level, and they're like,
shots fired by David.
I mean, it's not good or bad. It's just like he's really good at like talking at that level where they're like, he's speaking my language, and I like that. And then when you're like
it is.
Yeah, and when you're an academic like me and you start explaining things to people, they're gonna be like, I don't know what these words you're saying, and they kind of just like, this guy's crazy or whatever. Long story short, just talk and provide information where people actually like digest it, understand it, and they actually like come along with you in that discussion.
One of the things that one of the hurdles I've encountered, even when trying to deliver the information in a non-aggressive manner, like with so much disinformation and, like you were saying earlier, so much shit coming at us throughout the day, you'll have people who, just because like they read like a thread on X or follow some like right-wing conspiracy theorist on YouTube, think that they're like well versed in a specific topic when none of the sources are verified or credible. And so like when you're talking with somebody like that, no matter how nice like you're trying to be, when they swear that they're like the specialist on it, it can get very frustrating. And I have a friend of mine that we have opposing political views, and I'll be like, dude, like, where are you getting this information? And he's like, oh, it's all over X. I'm like, bro, like
Pelosi's behind it. It's on Pelosi's laptop.
Yeah, I'm like, and I get it. Like, trust in the government is at all-time lows, and I definitely believe like there's shady shit that the government does, but I think that there's like possibility and probability. Like, what's probable? Did somebody fucking set Trump up, to kill him, or is it just like some psycho who, like, we have tons of shootings in our country, like, and they all like follow like similar patterns. This was another similar pattern in terms of like the demographic of the shooter.
Yeah, one thing I know is if either side wanted him dead or there is a deep state and they wanted him dead, that guy wouldn't be the guy climbing on a roof. You know what I mean? Yeah. That's all I'm thinking. And that's like, you got to sometimes go back to like logical, like, like easy things, like that. Like, all right, so you're ruling out all that already because that guy wouldn't have been the one,
Yeah.
But yeah, all right. So before we circle back to that, episode went quick. It was a good one.
Was it?
And yeah, we'll
I
see.
felt every minute of it.
We'll see you guys soon on both channels. We got some new stuff planned.
We got some guests planned too, right?
What? Yeah,
Guests.
definitely.
Yeah.
All right. So see you guys soon. Coming from the Doomsday Ranch. I'll see you guys. Have a good night. You guys want to go around and?
Yep. Thanks for watching, and yeah, next time will be better.
All right.
And I just hope anything I said, if it sounds stupid, I'm running on like 4 hours of sleep. So, but I'm trying my best. I'm trying my best with what I got. And going back to what I said in the beginning.
Yep. Full circle.
Yeah.
All right. Have a good night.
Good night, guys.
Later.
Take care.